Sup, nerds? So, I love zombies. Whether I'm watching a movie like Dawn of the Dead or World War Z, or a show like The Walking Dead, or I'm playing a game like The Last of Us, Left 4 Dead, Dying Light. I love zombies, even Call of Duty zombies. I love them. So today, I'm simply going to be talking about the most dangerous zombie viruses and infections uh, from like live action movies and shows, and then at the end, I'll be ranking them on survivability from like least to worst or easiest to worst, whatever. Um, yeah, and there's only 7 of them, and I'll be making a part 2 for like zombies in video games. So let's get to it. The wildfire virus from The Walking Dead. So a lot of people joke about this virus, right? Because the zombies are slow and they lack coordination. But I'll tell you, it's much harder than some might think. This virus initially was transmitted through air particles. Basically, it was airborne, causing every person on the planet who breathes to become an asymptomatic carrier. That is until death. No matter how the person died, unless it was some trauma in or to the brain, they always reanimate into a walking, brainless corpse. This is how this virus took over the world and nearly pushed mankind to extinction. Dozens of thousands of people die every day, most of which aren't caused by like a blow to the dome. This means thousands of reanimate corpses rise and attack the living all around the world all at once, basically. If bitten by a walker, the person only has at most 2 days left, as the infected person succumbs to a merciless fever, as well as other flu-like symptoms. When death happens, the pathogen goes into the brain and restarts the brainstem only. Basically, it gets them back on their feet, but without their memories and experiences. Whatever made them them is no longer there anymore. However, you are in luck. The walkers are pretty slow, uncoordinated, and are very slowly decomposing. They're pretty easy to deal with one-on-one or in small groups. Look at Rick Grimes deal with like 30 of them with a hatchet. You see it. The virus also doesn't affect wildlife. But things to remember are that walkers can only be killed by physical trauma to the brain. Riddled in bullets, cut in half, decapitated, burned to a crisp, none of that will kill them. And why I called them brainless, some have shown some signs of intelligence, like climbing ladders, opening doors, and using bricks to break glass windows. They're also attracted to noise and lights, and they often travel in large herds. And those are only the real big problems to deal with, the large herds, because like I said, one-on-one, they're pretty easy to deal with. The thing that makes this apocalypse so hard to survive is the mere fact that they come back to life no matter what, unless, a blow to the brain. No matter what, you're coming back as one of these things. And that there is no cure. No one is immune to it either. And it always seems that communities fall eventually. Every community, doesn't matter what it is. But that's usually because of some dumb person or bullshit that happened. Anyways, you get it. That's why The Walking Dead, the wildfire virus, is hard to survive. Next up, the Rage virus from 28 Days Later. This is a virulent, blood-borne virus that sends its host into an unending, uncontrollable, and unbridled rage. 2 Cambridge scientists, Clive and Warren, created an inhibitor that regulates anger control issues in the human brain to lessen anger in people across the world. That's awesome. However, they thought the Ebola virus would be the best way to deliver it to people. Sure enough, within 2 weeks, Ebola had caused the inhibitor to mutate, causing the opposite effect. And once one of the infected chips that they were experimenting on escaped, it only took 13 days, less than 2 weeks, for England's society to completely collapse. Once infected, it'll only take 10 to 20 seconds for people to succumb to the infection. They vomit and bleed from every orifice, and they start relentlessly and aggressively attacking any non-infected person. They're fast as hell with heightened mobility and endurance, and aren't limited by mental restrictions, meaning they're stronger than the average person. However, the infected here aren't actually dead, meaning they're a lot easier to kill. A couple of bullets or less, drowning, strangling, starving, they all succumb to that eventually. There are even some people immune to the virus like her. However, if they are infected, they become carriers. This sucks because people can't get infected by these immune people. You can get infected by these immune people by accidentally touching one drop of their sweat or any other bodily fluid. And when they are infected by the immune carriers, it's like the virus mutates and gets even like stronger. They can even last longer without food. However, they still do succumb to the same things that people do. However, there is some good news. After about 5 weeks of the original virus, the first of the infected were starting to die of starvation. And since it only takes 10 to 20 seconds to turn, no infected person would be able to leave the UK on a boat or a plane without causing mayhem unless they were immune, in which they would accidentally infect someone else, in which the same thing would happen. So if you live in the UK, your chances of survival aren't great. They're pretty slim. But if you literally live anywhere else, you're fine. And even if you do live in the UK, you hunker down somewhere safe for a few months max, you should be fine. Yeah. And the next virus is the zombies from the World War Z movie. The exact origins of this virus are unknown, but it's believed to be related to rabies in some way, and there are reports of it happening in India and other countries before it made its way to the US. But this outbreak is probably the scariest one for me, because upon being bitten, it only takes 12 seconds for the host to join the undead. And these zombies are insane. Crazy fast, mobile, and coordinated. They don't tire, and they're only driven by the need to spread the virus, not to feed like other zombies and other like fictions and whatnot. And they're probably the fastest out of any zombies you've ever seen. They also just run and just leap at an uninfected person, using this momentum to knock people over, making it easier for them to bite them. They also run in these massive hordes. These overwhelm the biggest cities and entire armies in just a couple of hours, as outbreaks of the virus happened all across the world. A horde can even climb off of one another to climb over massive concrete walls. This is how they took Israel. And they're also heavily attracted to sound. They can only be killed with headshots. However, shooting them anywhere else does slow them down, and explosives work very well too. However, this virus differs from any other in that the infected don't target the terminally ill. It's as if they don't even see the sick person and just run straight past them. That's because the pathogen only wants healthy people to infect. We also know that infecting yourself with some severe illness acts as camouflage to the undead. It only took these zombies mere days to take over the world and topple most of mankind. I think most people would die into this outbreak, and it's definitely going to be on the upper end when I rank them at the end of this video. Next, we have the cordyceps brain infection from The Last of Us on Max. Only the show, not the game. So, also known as CBI, this is a parasitic fungal infection that devastated mankind. Due to global warming, the fungi, cordyceps was forced to mutate to survive. This mutation allowed it to thrive in a human host, turning them into a ravenous zombie-like creature, and previously it couldn't do this. Upon infection, the fungi slowly grows and takes over the brain as the host slowly dies. Then they become hyper-aggressive zombies with the sole purpose of eating and spreading the infection, which happens through bites. It heals impaired injuries in the host too, like if someone was paralyzed. Upon reanimating, they would no longer need the wheelchair. Depending on where you are bitten, it can take anywhere between 5 minutes and 24 hours to turn. The fungus also grows underground with an extensive system of fibers growing miles long. Barely touching one of these patches could awaken another one with a horde of infected hosts lying dormant like a mile or two away, telling them exactly where you are, and they will come straight for you. However, these fungal patches do die over time, and these zombies are fast as hell, and they don't tire, but a few shots or snapping of the neck, strangulation, etc. will put them down. But the fungus keeps growing on the infected brain after reanimation, so much so that after about a year, the fungus protrudes from their head, destroying their vision. But that's okay for them because they become a clicker, and they're blind, but they have echolocation, which is why they make those clicking sounds. They're also stronger and tougher. And then after several more years, the fungus protrudes from all over, from different points of the body as they become a bloater, this guy. They've grown in size, increasing their strength and durability tenfold. Since the infection is global, fast acting, and the fact that you would have to learn so much about the infected as you survive, I find survival very unlikely. However, if you did or were able to learn how all the infected behave and how they act, you can predict what they're going to do, then survival becomes a lot easier and it becomes much more likely that you would survive. Moving on, we're going to the virus in the Dawn of the Dead movie. The remake, the 2004 remake. This is the virus from the 2004 movie Dawn of the Dead. The source of this zombie-causing plague was never revealed. It spreads through bites of infected individuals, and that seems to be the only way it can spread. We also know the outbreak happened worldwide, and it only took the dead 26 hours to completely take over the planet. And while we don't know the origins of this virus, there's evidence that it's supernatural in nature. The fact that it's not airborne, but still happened all around the world simultaneously, is enough proof to me that this was an extinction level event meant to be mankind's demise. But let's talk about the zombies now. Similar to the World War Z infected, they're fast as fuck, and they don't tire. One is strong enough to bust through locked wooden doors, and they're truly undead. They can't starve or dehydrate, they're unbothered by losing limbs, and the only ways to truly kill them is destroying their brains and a hot enough fire/explosion. They also decompose really effing slow, if at all, as a month into the apocalypse, the zombies are still fast and not even close to falling apart from decomposition. That's more evidence to a supernatural origin for the virus. I find it hard to believe that anyone could survive this one long term. Next up, we have the Crippen virus. From I Am Legend, also known as KV. It was a virus genetically engineered from the measles virus by Dr. Alice Crippen as a cure for cancer. And at first, it appeared to be effective with no side effects, but over time, it began to mutate and cause rabies-like symptoms in its hosts. The outbreak happened in December 2009 after it mutated once again into a lethal new strain of measles with a 90% kill rate, and it became airborne, reaching the entire globe. It killed 5.4 billion people, and of the remaining 600 million, only 12 million were naturally immune. The other 588 million became dark seekers, who would prey on the surviving humans. Once infected, you will slowly succumb to it over the next 48 hours, suffering a fever, bleeding from the eyes, and vomiting blood. At the 48th hour, the host will develop primal behavior and a vicious bloodlust if they don't just die, because, 90%, right? They also see mankind as vicious monsters that must be killed and consumed. I agree with that kind of. Mankind can be quite vicious, but it's the consumption part that I'm not okay with. But to each their own. Dark seekers have pale skin, no hair, and dilated pupils. They can also only come out at night as sunlight burns them, kind of like a vampire or something. The Crippen virus also causes the host body to constantly pump adrenaline throughout its body, boosting their speed, strength, agility, and metabolism. The infection also affects animals the same way, or at least dogs and rats. They're also smart enough to lay traps, and they even care about one another deeply, as this guy right here is the alpha of the Dark Seekers, and they care about each other. They even have, deep emotional bonds for each other. They essentially became their own, organized species. Oh, and one more thing. They can climb walls. They can scale up straight walls, like Spider-Man or something. So, cool. And lastly, we have the Army of the Dead virus. The origins of this one is unknown, but Patient Zero was a result of experimentation with alien technology, I guess, in Area 51. Patient Zero was being transported to somewhere else via a military convoy, but after a car accident, he escaped, infected all of the soldiers, and then they set his sights on Las Vegas. While attacking Las Vegas, he gave himself the name Zeus, and he and his group took over the entire city. or they infected the entire city. But before they could spread outside of the city, the military blocked them in by putting hundreds of shipping containers around the city. Shamblers are the basic zombies, and you become one after being bitten by one. They're attracted to body heat and loud sounds, and they are hyper aggressive to people and animals. Yeah, even animals are affected by this virus. After spending a long time in the sun, they start to melt and glue together until eventually drying out and entering a coma-like state. However, some rainfall can revive them temporarily. Also, if they go a long time without food, they enter this hibernation to conserve energy. While like this, they won't react to movement, but they will wake up if touched or disturbed. These guys are very fast, and it takes several shots to the chest to put them down, but they do decay over time. However, if bitten by Zeus, you would become an alpha, like her, his lover there. These guys are physically superhuman and smarter, capable of organizing themselves into a society under Zeus, use weapons, and make decisive decisions. They can even be negotiated with by people. To a certain extent, they don't decay and can even become pregnant and feel emotions. So I guess they're still kind of alive if their bodily functions are working. And then there's Zeus, by far the strongest one, being able to throw adult people across large rooms with one hand with ease and survive a direct grenade launcher blast. He wore a metal mask for more protection, carried a metal spear, and rode a zombified horse named Wildfire. Yeah, this guy was the boss, and all of them followed him, like, without challenge. Like, they just accepted it. He was the boss, their leader, and they all like trusted him truly. Oh, but that's not all, because then there's this pet, Valentine, a zombified white tiger. She retained her animalistic instincts as a tiger, and she would walk her territory every day. I don't know why. I guess it's something different. She had the instincts and intelligence of a tiger, and she was a great hunter. She was Zeus's like personal pet or something. And being a tiger, she could maul and overpower anyone. Anyone. But yeah, that is the army of the dead zombie virus. So if I were to rank them based on survivability realistically, this is how I'd do it. So at the bottom, I'd have the army of the dead zombies. Okay? They had only taken over a large city before the military contained it there. And while they are probably the smartest, the most organized out of all of them, and Las Vegas is a large city, and they just took a night to do this, the military, the military was able to contain it there with large shipping containers just surrounding the city, and they couldn't breach out or anything. Honestly, realistically, maybe they decided to do it that, just to hunker down in the city. I don't know, but they weren't able to get outside of that city, and so far they're the least effective zombies on the list. At number 6, I'd probably have the Rage virus for similar reasons, basically. As long as you don't live in the UK, you're good. Like, that's still, like, most of the world untouched. Not to mention the infected are still alive and can die the same ways we can. The reason why it's not less is because the virus showed that it could mutate. And the UK is a lot bigger than Las Vegas. That's basically it. Yeah. I guess I could also say that immune people make the virus worse. So there's that as well. Next, at number 5, the wildfire virus. The reason why it's above the other two is because it happened worldwide. There's also no escaping the fact that once you die, you reanimate, unless it was from head trauma. However, the walkers are easy to avoid. The biggest problems are hordes and the other people. But we've seen large communities like Alexandria, the Commonwealth, and the CRM thrive, like with thousands of people living there. So I also think in season 2 of the Daryl show, we saw that the UK was barely touched by the outbreak, over a decade into the virus or into the apocalypse. I haven't seen it yet, though. That's just what I've heard. But that's going there. Number 4, we have the cordyceps brain infection. I thought this one would be higher on the list, but I just can't put it above the other three. All the infected types are very dangerous, even one-on-one, and there's only one immune person with no way to make a cure from her. And it seems most of mankind is gone. However, I will say that there is a good chunk of mankind left, and once you have learned the infected's behaviors, they should be pretty easy to avoid, all things considered. Um, and they don't even require a headshot to kill. Like, you can literally snap their neck and they'll die. So, yeah, this one's difficult. It's in the middle for a reason. It's pretty difficult. But once you learn everything, you should be in the clear. You should be good, right? Unless you just make a mistake. But yeah, you get it. And as far as the top three go, I think they're interchangeable, but here's my opinion. At number 3, we have the World War Z virus. The worst parts about this one is just the speed, the hordes, and the fact it only takes 12 seconds to turn once bitten. You can make a solid argument for this one, like I said, to be number 1. I mean, there's just not much you can do here unless you're terminally ill. They took over the world in just a few days, despite the virus not being airborne. Okay. They can scale up walls, and they're just so fast, and yeah. But at number 2, we have the Dawn of the Dead outbreak, or the virus. These zombies are exactly like the War Z zombies, but instead of one outbreak, there were outbreaks all over the world. It really feels like this one was meant to be mankind's extinction level event, because it wasn't airborne. Yet it happened all around the world on the same day, and it only took 26 hours for most of mankind to fall. Like, after 26 hours, the world belonged to the dead. Yeah. Again, you can make a solid argument that this one should be number 1, but in my opinion, the Crippen virus is number 1. The mere fact that 90% of all human life just died immediately when the virus became airborne is insane, and that's why I'm putting it number 1. Yes, 12 million people were immune, but the rest of the human population, about 588 million, became dark seekers, and while they had to avoid sunlight, they were superhumanly strong, tough, fast, and smart. But you can really argue on any of the top 3 spot to be number 1. This is just my opinion. I don't think the fact that they have to stay out of the sun puts them lower than the other 2 in the top 3. I think that 90% kill rate in the Dark Seekers themselves puts them at number 1. But that is my video. Like and subscribe if you did enjoy the comment of what you thought, and hit the notification bell to be notified of all my future videos and all that great stuff. We're on the road to 3K subs, which is amazing, astounding. We're so close, and that's all because of you guys. Thank you so much. My social medias will be down in the description, and all the great stuff. I truly do appreciate it. I hope you guys have a great day, and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace!